Today I'm doing the scripture reading, and I have been instructed to say something personal about how this psalm affected me. And while I love the psalms, most of them make me think or let me put this differently. Many of our beautiful hymns have been based on the psalms. And so when I read a psalm, it brings to mind those hymns that we know and love. And this one didn't. Oh, well, it's okay. I will read the psalm now. O God, give your anointed one your judgment and your justice. Teach your chosen one to govern your people rightly and bring justice to the oppressed. The mountains will bring the people peace, and the little hills bring justice. Your anointed will defend the oppressed among the people, save the people of the poor, and crush the oppressor. The reign of your anointed will endure as long as the sun and moon throughout all generations. The rule of the chosen one will be like rain coming down on the meadow, like showers watering the earth. Justice will flower through the days, and abundance of peace, till the moon shall be no more. Tarshish and the isles will offer gifts. Arabia and Sheba will bring tribute. All rulers will pay homage, and all the nations will serve your anointed. Your anointed will rescue the poor when they cry out, and the oppressed when there is no one to help them. Your chosen one will take pity on the lowly and the poor and will save their lives. Your chosen will rescue them all from violence and oppression and will treat their blood as precious.
During the season of Epiphany, Richard Brooksvort Culligan, who composed our theme song for this worship series, offers a little background about today's psalm and then his musical interpretation with a simple chorus that you'll catch on to pretty quickly. I hope that you'll sing along.
Hi friends, it's Richard. I want to invite you into a song for Psalm 72. Psalm 72 is an interesting one. It seems like back in the day this song was written as a coronation hymn, a blessing for a king. The leader that they are singing about, that they're asking God to bless, was a remarkable person. Listen to this. This king was compassionate and generous and always looking for justice for his people. This person paid attention to the poor, it says, the lowly, those living with violence. This king paid attention to the most vulnerable in society. Psalm 72 invites us to think about who is most vulnerable in our society right now, in the world, in your neighborhood, in your circle of friends, or in your family. Who is most vulnerable? And what would it be like to be as compassionate and generous as this king? The text says, you are like rain showering down on the farmland, so that up in the mountains where the fields grow, food will come up. That food as justice for everyone. This song is called These Lives Are Precious, and it comes from a line, where is it here? It says, the king redeems their lives from oppression and violence. Their blood is precious in his eyes. The most vulnerable of us, we can say, these lives are precious. You're the goodness raining on the farmland. Your peace sprouting in the mountain fields. You're a harvest of the love and justice, ripening to feed and heal. lives are precious. These lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. All these lives are precious, you know. Help the one whose neck is being stepped on. Knock down the oppressor, it's your vow. Help the one who's helpless in the moment. Do the act of justice now. These lives are precious. These lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. All these lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. These lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. All these lives are precious, you know. Of course you know. Push against the hatred they have taught us. Away with the systematic fear. Help the one whose neck is being stepped on. Shower rain upon the fields. These lives are precious. These lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. All these lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. These lives are precious, you know. These lives are precious. All these lives are precious, you know.
Because the psalm was most likely written for and used at the coronation of a king, perhaps several kings, it's easy to distance myself from it. It is a prayer for a national leader, a plea to God to guide the leader in the ways of justice, compassion, and peace. And I'm not a national leader, so this psalm doesn't seem to be about me. But I live a largely privileged life. I'm white, middle class, middle-aged, cisgender man with an advanced degree. The prayer doesn't really seem to be about me either. I'm not one of the oppressed who need the leader's protection. I'm not one of the poor crying out who need rescue. Since society is already saying that I am a privileged person, I don't need my blood, my life to be viewed as precious. Or so I think. The fact of the matter, excuse me. The fact of the matter is that all people, and this includes me, are yearning for protection, nurture, compassion, even rescue for some reason or other. All of us are vulnerable. While we may be vulnerable to different forces, different dangers, that doesn't change the fact that we are all vulnerable. And the things to which we are vulnerable change throughout our lives. As they change, our need for protection and tender care change with them. Did you catch the line in Richard's psalm song, "Help the one whose neck is being stepped on"? I immediately thought of George Floyd. And then I started thinking about more metaphoric ways that necks are stepped on. People who live in violent and abusive households and community. People for whom a $600 stimulus check may be the difference between eating and not when they get to the end of the month. People who are marginalized by all the isms from which our society suffers. The fact of the matter is that the social order, the status quo, the political system is responsible, just as it was when the psalm was written, just as it was in Jesus' day, for the oppression that the psalm calls us to end. Diana Butler Bass, in her forthcoming book, Freeing Jesus, writes that when people chose to follow Jesus 2,000 years ago, their lives changed. They had to leave their jobs and surrender their social standing to eat with him. Children, slaves, soldiers, peasants, fishermen, farmers, prisoners, the sick, the blind, the lame. When they encountered Jesus, they found salvation, the wholeness, the healing, the oneness with God that had only been the stuff of longing. Every miracle, every act of hospitality, all the broken bread and wine served, everything that Jesus did saved people long before Rome arrested and murdered him. It was all this loving and healing and saving that got him in trouble with the authorities. He was not killed so that his death could save people. He was killed because he was already saving people. He threatened a world based on fear, one held in the grip of Roman imperialism, by proving that a community could gather in love, set a table of plenty, and live in peace with a compassionate God. Jesus did at-one-ment long before being nailed to a cross. At-one-ment was the reason the authorities did away with him. No empire can stand if the people it oppresses figure out that reconciliation, love, liberation, and oneness hold more power than the sword. So Rome lynched Jesus, tortured him, and hung him on a tree. Viewing all lives as precious, as Jesus did, is countercultural. It is revolutionary. Just imagine what our country would be like if caring and compassion were the organizing principles of our society. I caught the very end of a radio program yesterday. I don't know what it was, and I don't think it really matters what it was, because it's the tagline at the end of the show that stuck with me, that caught my ear and stays with me. Take care of yourself, the radio host said. And if you can, take care of someone else too. This seems to be good advice and very much in keeping with our psalm, for it recognizes that each of our lives is precious. As you do this work of taking care of yourself and of someone else if you're able, I encourage you to remember that God is holding your life. Will you sing with me? God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life, we believe. God is holding your life. God is holding your life. God is holding your life, we believe.